You cannot imagine the amount of balls we juggle at the same time. So let's just recap where we got to. My daughter masked in school. She was fine in school. I pushed to get help for her. We ended up on a child protection plan. Running alongside this, before school and social services were involved, my daughter was seeing CAMHS for what they thought was childhood trauma. But nothing was getting any better. My daughter's behaviour was worse. She was really struggling still at home. She had no education at all. In the middle of all this, I was gathering all my evidence and applying for an education healthcare plan on my own. I've had years of the school telling me my daughter would never be awarded an education healthcare plan because there wasn't enough evidence. She was fine in school, but I knew she needed high levels of support. We were awarded an education healthcare plan the first time of asking, with a high level of care and support outlined. The next step was to choose a school, but again, there was not enough evidence, according to the local authority, for my child to attend a specialist provision. She'd already had 2 failed mainstream places. I knew she needed specialist school, but unfortunately this was beyond my control. So I did apply for a mainstream school place. Due to the time my daughter had been out of school, she had now left primary and was about to start secondary school. However, the school that I had chosen told the local authority that they couldn't meet her needs, and so they agreed that a specialist place could be made. At the same time as my daughter being out of school and me trying to secure an education healthcare plan for her, we also were dealing with CAMHS. Her therapy had come to an end and it was proven that it wasn't really working, and we wanted to get a second opinion from a different doctor. So we saw another doctor in CAMHS, more assessments were done. The outcomes of those I did appeal and I really had to battle for it. But after a while and lots of appointments and many assessments, my daughter came away with a diagnosis of ADHD and autism. I just want to stop here and tell you that everything I have told you till now is just a small part of what we've been through to get the correct help and support that my child desperately needed. This is years of going backwards and forwards that wasn't helpful in any way. And when my daughter was masking in school, it made it almost impossible to work with any professionals involved because they had very little understanding of children who mask. So our journey has been a very difficult one and a very long one, over 8 years. As you've seen from my story, we were accused of a lot of things, and all along my daughter's needs were going unrecognised and unmet, which has caused her trauma and social anxiety issues. My daughter was a huge masker in school and found it almost impossible to attend. She's still currently out of school and we have started consulting with new schools. She's had 2.5 years of not attending school. This little infographic shows you what I was juggling at the same time over the 8 years. So if we have a look at it, in the small triangle up front, we've got the normal family duties that all parents do. Alongside that, I've got a child who is struggling. She's struggling and she's getting worse and she's not getting any help. So I'm dealing with the help she's getting at CAMHS that isn't working. I'm dealing with school who won't help because she masks at school and they don't see it. Because I'm pushing school to support her, I'm then dealing with the social care, which then I carry on to push, so I'm put on a child protection plan. Once the child protection plan ends and my daughter can no longer go to school because she's so unwell, we then decide to push for a second opinion from CAMHS. Alongside that, we try to secure an education healthcare plan for her. All of this is happening while my child is still deteriorating. Her needs have got more complex over the 8 years that they haven't been met. She's still out of school. 2.5 years without any school and intermittent education over 8 years. I was dealing with all of these at the same time over a long period of times. And you wonder why we seemed a bit wired. As you're listening to this, I would plead with you, please take masking into consideration with children. Please don't try to blame the home life. Listen to the parents. We know our children best. And just remember, this is child's life here. And what examples are we setting if they're screaming out for help and no one is helping them? Thank you for listening to this digital story from a very tired mum. Nice guidance. Autism spectrum disorder in under 19s. Recognition, referral and diagnosis. Always take the parents' or carers' concerns and, if appropriate, the child's or young person's concerns about behaviour or development seriously, even if these are not shared by others. When considering the possibility of autism, be aware that when older children or young people present for the first time with possible autism, signs or symptoms may have previously been masked by the child or young person's coping mechanisms and or a supportive environment. Choice of school, Special Educational Needs and Disability Code of Practice, England. If parents or young people express a preference for a school or college, the local authority must consult with the governing body, principal or proprietor of the school or college concerned and consider their comments very carefully before deciding whether to name it in the child's or young person's education healthcare plan, sending the school or college a copy of that draft plan. Regional Child Protection Procedures for the West Midlands. Mental health of a parent. Children's workers must assess the individual needs of each child and within this incorporate information provided by staff working with the adult. Professionals working with the adult, for example, support staff, health workers or GP, must be invited to and should attend to provide information to any meeting concerning the implications of a parent carer's mental health difficulty on the child, including early help, team around the family, child protection conferences, core groups and in child in need meetings. Children's social care professionals should be invited to attend care programme approach and other meetings related to the management of the parent's mental health. Sandwell Children's Trust Multi-Agency Threshold Document. We tried to find safeguarding guidance listing a risk factor of a parent filing documents related to their child and them knowing too much. We couldn't. We all have different experiences through the multi-agency assessment before, during and after. Join our conversation to try and make sure that everyone has the most positive experience they can at this difficult time.